ahead and make some announcements and introduce you.
Okay, great.
Okay. Okay, so welcome to this session entitled Counselors for Computers. If you have found yourself in the wrong session, please click on the sessions in the toolbar on the right of your screen to find the session you would like to attend. To ask questions within the session, please note the word event and session to the right of your screen. Click session and then select Q&A, and you can type your question in that Q&A column, or you can just type it in chat, but I will monitor the chat and the Q&A and let our presenters know if a question pops up while they are presenting. Thank you to Jennifer and Sarah for being with us today to present such valuable content for this conference. I'm going to read their bios very quickly and then hand it over to Jennifer and Sarah. And I apologize. I will do my best not to butcher your names. Jennifer Corriente received the 2020 Hudson County Counselor of the Year Award. She is the Director of School Counseling at Harrison High School and has been a high school counselor for 11 years after spending 9 years as a history teacher. Jennifer graduated from Montclair State University with a bachelor's in history and a master's in counseling. Empowering students through a growth mindset, she has advocated for new course offerings that break down barriers to post-secondary success, including access for all students to STEM programming. Having recently started as a NCWIT's Counselor for Computing consultant, Jennifer is passionate about encouraging school counselors to embrace their role as agents of change. Jennifer's intentional efforts to broaden participation in computing in her high school is recognized by the College Board with the 2020 AP Computer Science Female Diversity Award, which recognizes schools that expand access to AP Computer Science. Jennifer is a member of the American School Counselor Association, New Jersey School Counselor Association, New Jersey Association of College Admissions Counselors, and New Jersey Principals and Supervisors Association. And then we have Sarah Margiotta.
Yes,
She has been a elementary school counselor for 10 years. She began her career in education 17 years ago as a fourth grade teacher. She graduated from Montclair State University with a bachelor's in human ecology and a master's in administration and supervision. She is also a graduate of New Jersey City University, earning a master's in counseling. Sarah currently manages a caseload of 900 plus students with varying emotional, economic, and educational needs. Sarah has been instrumental in bringing positive behavior programs into her school and building them from the ground up. She also believes in the value of providing students with the foundational skills they have need to become productive 21st century learners. Sarah is passionate about breaking down barriers and advocating for students and families as they transition through different life circumstances. She feels strongly about advocating for all students. Sarah encourages all school counselors to find their voice to speak for not only their population, but for themselves. Sarah's dedication to her school has recently recognized as she was nominated as Education Service Personnel of the Year by her peers. She is also a member of the American School Counselor Association and New Jersey School Counselor Association. Sarah also sits on numerous social emotional learning committees for both the school and the county. And I'm so pleased to have them with us today, and we'll turn it over to them.
So good morning. We're very happy to be here. Certainly a new platform for us, so I hope that you might bear with us as we go through this.
Yes.
And I'll just give you a fun fact before we start is that Sarah and I are sisters. So if you see us maybe having the same characteristics, like gestures or something, it's because we are sisters. Ironically, though, we decided not to be in the same space today. I don't know what that was about, but maybe she's tired of me. But you'll see on this first slide, this is just information. And I want to just do a check-in. Everybody can see the slides, like no worries there. Okay. The first slide really just our introductory introductory information. And you'll see like our hashtag up there and our Twitter for NCWIT. And the first thing that I think that Sarah and I always want to say is that we are not here to tell you about the things that you're not doing. We're certainly not here to tell you about the things that you need to do more of. We are just bringing to light some information that we want you to be able to use and put into your programming. And we think that school counselors, we are practicing school counselors, so we know the ins and outs of the job and what's going on. So please don't take this as we're giving you more work to do. We are asking you to do some intentional work. And so we start with NCWIT. And go ahead, Sarah.
No, I wanted to say, just on that point, we're really focusing on bringing you valuable PD today. So our goal is to give you tools that you can walk away with, that can help you be more intentional, ideas that you can use to be more intentional, and even like a little bit of a framework. So we really just want to make sure that this is useful, because we've all sat through workshops where we walk away feeling like I didn't really get a lot out of this, or I didn't feel like this touched upon what I'm doing or what I need to be doing. So our goal is to constantly bring it full circle for you and talk about computer science, how it is for everyone, and how we can be incorporating that and highlighting that within our counseling programs. And how to do that in a way that's not going to add more to your already overflowing plate.
So our organization that we work for, that we are consultants for, is NCWIT, and you'll see in the slide what it really means. It's like 1,400 plus change leading organizations to increase and influence the participation of women, right, at all intersections like race, ethnicity, class, age, sexual orientation, disability status, in the field of innovation and development. And really, when we talk about it, you'll hear us focus on women, but in reality, we are focusing on really all the underrepresented populations, making sure that all voices are heard. And so the part that kind of brings the counselors in, you may be sitting here thinking, how does that even deal with counseling? Counselors for Computing recognizes that we are such an important part of that pipeline, that school counselors have a unique position. And we bring all those programs together and allow for the students to explore these opportunities. So NCWIT recognized the value of school counseling and put together a group of counselors for computing. And that's how Sarah and I find ourselves here with you today.
You know, and when we talk about school counselors and where you fit in this space, Jen put it really well when she said that we are just a major piece of that pipeline. And if you look at this graphic, I really think it sort of highlights and illustrates for you how much you have access to in terms of people and programming and things like that, and how you can use that to sort of bring this idea of computer science for everyone to your populations. So when we think about where we sit in the structure of a school, we work with a myriad of stakeholders all the time, and sometimes we don't even realize that we're interfacing with all of these different stakeholders. So we're always with our teachers, our students, our families, our administration. We're working with community members and school board members. And what we can do with that positioning is we have the ability to bring information to those stakeholders to say, hey, we need to find programming that speaks to this need, or hey, we need to, I noticed a teacher talking about how she didn't have enough of whatever resource, let's see what we can do to bring that in. So we are here to work systematically, right, within this construct of education, right? And we're able to remove these barriers, and we're able to create opportunity. And I think it's really important that we realize that this is all part of what we are charged with our ASCA ethical standards, right? So this is how it kind of comes full circle. And we sort of can say, well, I don't know, computer science, is this really where I belong? Why isn't this really more in the tech area? Why isn't this more about, you know, our teachers that are teaching computer science, or our tech departments? So that's a piece of it. But I think when we talk about us as school counselors, we are being asked with our ethical standards to create systemic change and provide equitable access, educational access for our students. So when we talk about the role of computer science and equitable educational access, we're going to sort of touch on how big this area of computer science is and how much we need to be bringing it into our schools at the youngest ages that we can in order to provide them the opportunities to explore and excel in these fields. Because what we're going to show you is long term. I always say school counseling is a long game. It's not a 1 year at a time thing. Long term, when we're talking about our students as they leave us and they go into the workforce, we need to have provided them with the most sound and useful education that we can. And computer science is going to be such a huge part of that. And we need to make sure that all of our students are getting equitable access to that.
Right. And like when you take a look at this ethical standard before we go to the next slide, I just finished doing the ASCA conference. So I am conferenced out, let me tell you. So I've started with LDI and then went to the conferencing for the regular sessions. And this standard always kind of like gets me emotional because it really speaks to what our job is and what we do. And kind of going into that next is kind of understanding where we are in this with computer science. And when we look at what computer science is, it is really having a computer that helps us solve a problem that we have. But like, let's look at the words that we're using, right? Communicate, solve problems, design and imagine, share, store, retrieve, manipulate, secure. I mean, if that's not us in a nutshell, I don't know what is, right? That talks about school counseling. And also it's our students, right? We have imaginative students. We have students who want to design. We have students that want to share, right? We have students that want to manipulate, secure. Like we have all those things. These are all words that are interchangeable for all of us. And kind of talking a little bit about that next, we're going to ask you to watch this video. And Sarah's going to, go ahead, Sarah.
So Jen always lets me do this one because I love this video and I love it for a lot of reasons. And I think the main reason I love it, and I hope this speaks to anybody who has maybe seen this video already. Every single time I have watched this video, I'm going to say over 30 times, right? Like just constantly. I take away something new from it every single time with every area. And when it's like the more I watch it, the more I pull on these different computer science areas. And what we would like you to do is we would like you to watch this video for it's about 5 minutes, not even. And I want you to just keep in mind what impresses you when you watch this video. What stands out, what is relatable to you. And I also want you to think about what do you think is important to your students? What would stand out to them? What would be part of what they're seeing as new and revolutionary and things like that. So I really want you to enjoy this video. I hope you do. I love it, and I'm wondering what I'm going to get out of it this time.
Okay, ready? Here we go.
Here we go.
I think 19th century was about the Industrial Revolution, about electricity, about disrupting the agricultural society and making it more advanced. The 20th century was about physics and engineering to do more things easier in our everyday life, from refrigerators to washing machines. How convenient. And the 21st century is definitely the digital age. It's the internet.
Even if you want to become a race car driver or play baseball, or build a house, all of these things have been turned upside down by software.
The lettuce bot is a robot that can sense its environment. Every single hour, this lettuce bot is seeing 1.5 million plants, and it's taking individual action on those plants. We enable lettuce growers to have higher yields in their field by helping make it cheaper, by helping produce food in a more sustainable way. And that wasn't previously possible without computer science and technology.
I have a really fun job where we build Polyvore, which kind of combines all my favorite things. So programming, as well as fashion and art and design and shopping. Half the products you use these days are software products that you play with on maybe your phone. And so if you want to build something cool, you need to know programming, right? And there's so many things that you can do with computer science. So if you just work backwards from the cool thing that you want to build and figure out what that is, a lot of times computer programming is part of that, right? So you should learn the skill. It's really exciting right now. The technology that we're developing right now is going to be used by your doctor in the next decade. When you come into the office and you're sick, the doctor is going to be like, all right, spit in this cup. And I will put it into this magic machine, which is a sequencer. And in an hour, I can tell you what you have or what's wrong with you. So if we're looking for a new virus, for example, we'll download a database of all the viruses that are known. And we'll search for, our sequence of interest against a whole database of all viruses. So you still need somebody to analyze the data. The computer is not smart enough yet.
Our software helps people save energy and thereby reduce their carbon emissions. To date, we've saved over 8 terawatt hours, which is the equivalent of about 1.1 million cars on the road.
When you're forecasting the wind, there's so many different parameters that go into it. It would be impossible for a human to sit down and do all those calculations. We need a computer model in order to forecast it.
I write software which scans images, looking for bad images that we know are illegal. I work very closely with organizations like the National Center for Missing Children. I know that the work that we've done has impacted the life of people. And I feel very strongly about it because there's a lot of social problems right now that could really leverage the use of technology. It's a lot about empowering the people who are there helping the world by giving them the tools to be able to do better. That's something that we can do right now, and the tools available are huge.
The merging of art and technology is getting more and more significant now because computers and software are such an integral part of our lives day to day. People are realizing that it can be quite creative to take this medium of computers and create incredible works of art.
In Finding Nemo, when Crush and Squirt and all the friends are flying through the East Australian Current, you're seeing images of water flowing by, you're seeing the colors on the back of the turtle, you're seeing the sides of the fish. All of those things are generated through math and computer programs that we write, that we then give to the artists, and they take that to create that final image and tweak it and make it look beautiful and look fun.
The crux of it is really about invention. It's about looking at the world and being dissatisfied with things and questioning everything.
I always felt like if I didn't learn how to program, it would be like not learning how to read. The future would just be closed to me.
If you're in the coding profession, there's so many things that you can do, and you can pretty much pick and choose the course you want to be in.
I think that you can start something in your college dorm room, and you can have a set of people who haven't built a big company before come together and build something that 1 billion people use as part of their daily lives is just crazy to think about, right? It's humbling and it's amazing.
Really, it's about the chance to reinvent things and then see it out there in the world and see people using it and having fun or having a better life because of something that wasn't there before that you put in the world.
All right, so you'll see I did create a poll. I'm very excited about me trying to do this. I created a poll on the chat side, and I'm curious to see, did it work? You see it?
I did it, yeah.
Oh, it's very exciting.
Now everyone knows what I answered. So please jump over to the polls and let us know what you were impressed the most by. And, I would love to hear, or even if you also want to, vote and then maybe put a little discussion point in the chat. I love this viewpoint that computer science changes everything video gives us, because I really feel like sometimes, Erica had said something in the chat about that the things that we're using all the time are now more programs. Like they're not even like things. Like there are these apps and these programs. And I think that speaks so much to the way our students are growing up, where we're used to having something physical and they're used to not, right? This is their new world. But also, I think sometimes that we forget that people created these things, right? These apps just appear on our phone, or they just, and we forget that somebody needed to make that happen. And really, when we're talking about our students being able to be there to make it happen, we are going to play a huge role. We had, I'm just going to check the poll really quick, see if we got any. All right, so fashion, I love the polyboard thing. That's awesome. Public safety is a big one.
Yeah.
I want to say though, like, in terms of me, the agriculture thing really hits home to me. 1.5 million plants, that lettuce spot is amazing. But when I think about how many of my students suffered through food insecurity recently during the pandemic, the agriculture thing really hits home for me. What an amazing tool to be able to produce more food, more sustainably, and more quickly, through technology. That's really computer science finding a problem and fixing it. I think it's such a good illustration. But this next video, I think, also highlights the other side of these advancements. So when we're talking about development and creation, we also have to talk about diversity, and we have to talk about how important it is to have different voices sharing opinions and sharing ideas at that table, right? So when things are being created, we need to have all people talking to us about all of these things, because when we don't, then we miss so much.
Okay, so I'm gonna all right. It's only a minute, so it's not too.
It's quick.
Diversity isn't just about the things you can see, it's about the things that make us different and make us unique and make us special.
There's a true business case for having a diverse workforce.
What I think is really interesting is when we think about all the things that haven't been created because the creators weren't diverse.
When we do have true diversity in IT, things will be different for the end users of our technologies.
It just means equity in opportunity, equity in the ability for young women to realize their potential.
If we meet each other as human beings, willing to be vulnerable and yet willing to roll up our sleeves and make a difference, we can make a difference.
Right, again, powerful videos. Oh, apparently I liked it so much.
Play it twice. That last statement is so powerful to me. I just love that. The idea you don't have is the voice you haven't heard yet. And I think, I'll jump off my soapbox there, but I really think that this idea of bringing all people to the table is a huge one, and it falls squarely in the role of school counselor. Like, we have the ability to create a space for our students to have equitable access to these educational experiences that will help them as they grow. So go ahead, Jim, sorry.
It's okay. I know you get very excited about that. So when we think about how do school counselors relate in the space and able to kind of identify the computational thinking, a lot of the things we'll see in tech are really things that school counselors are doing every day. So in this slide, what we did is we took some of the computational thinking words, we explained what they were, and then we identified the standards, the ASCA standards that correlate to that. So like decomposition, breaking down into smaller parts. How often are we sitting with students identifying what a problem is and then breaking it down? How do you get this completed? How do you get your homework done? What are some of the issues that you're having? The pattern recognition, finding the trends. Do you find that when you stay up late, you are late for school in the morning? Those types of things. Abstraction, taking away the things that aren't important, getting down to the details. Step-by-step instruction creation. Probably one of the toughest things for any of us to do, right, is to create directions for someone else to follow. And then like the biggest one we have is like that debugging, right? Being able to stop and reflect and revisit, refine, find out what we can do better than next time, find out where we got stuck. A lot of times we use the idea of a duck, right, to debug. And last year at the beginning of the year, the school counselors and we gave each faculty member a little rubber duck, and so that they could talk out an issue that they had with the duck and find out, maybe what was the hiccup, what was the problem when they were trying to debug some situations virtually, because we started the school year virtually. So all these things come together, and this is also how we identify within the ASCA standards how we are able to use the computational thinking ideas and make them more normalized with our students, and then that allows them to think that they can be successful in computer science careers. Find your students who are good at recognizing patterns. Find your students who are good at reflecting and thinking back or breaking down problems. We have students that come to us with these things. We help them, and we can identify what they're good at and then allow them to be successful in some computer science classes in a space maybe that they hadn't considered and maybe that you hadn't considered could be good for them. So that's what this slide really kind of does, is it brings it all together, is those skills, those computational skills, are skills that we all want for our students. And it brings our mindsets and behaviors, it brings our problem solving skills and our computational thinking all together for essential skills. Who doesn't want to have a student that can do pattern recognition or can reflect? These are all purposeful ideas for students to embrace. Sarah, if you're on mute, I don't know, this is your...
I try to mute so that my little one doesn't create too much noise in the background. So when we're talking about all of these skills that we want students to be able to have, it's not just like we want to show you that this is like a real thing. So when we look at the World Economic Forum, what's trending right now for 2022 are these traits: analytical thinking, active learning strategies, innovation, creativity, technology design, programming, right? These are all skills that are being sought out by employers, okay? So our students are going to be the future employers. They are going to be sitting next to you in 10 years as a coworker. And these are the skills that employers are looking for them to bring to the table. Some of these, like emotional intelligence, problem solving, ideation, things like that, they used to be considered like soft skills or kind of nice to have. And I think we're entering a realm now where these are not so much nice to have, they're more essential to have. And I just want to jump back really quickly to talking about that computational thinking, where Jennifer had brought up a really good point about, like we all know kids that can do these things, that can do breaking down problems, they can identify similarities and things like that. And that's great. But I will say that what I'm going to speak to the elementary side of things is because sometimes I feel like as elementary counselors, we don't know where we sit in this space because our children are so young. I work with pre-K to sixth grade students. So when I think about what can I do with my first graders, my second graders, really it's reinforcing even these non-technical skills, right? These problem solving skills, these debugging skills, because if I keep reinforcing them as they grow, they're going to turn into these trending skills that are that we're looking at now on the slide. And if we go to the next slide, we're going to see something I love. Why expanding access matters is a huge issue. And this pie chart, or the circle chart, whatever you want to call it, is pretty heavy with a lot of numbers and labels. But the thing we want you to look at is computing. Computing jobs are the #1 source of new wages in America. This is huge. We are obligated to bring this content to our students as young and as efficiently as we can in order to give them the footing they need to go forward into the work world and to become these contributing members of the work environment, right? So every student really needs access to computing, and they need to be able to look back and say, this is where I can be. I can function in this space, even though I'm an art person, even though I'm a music person, even though I'm this is still an important part. And when we do that, we'll be kind of creating some job security for them down the road.
So people tend to think that it's a problem with the STEM, making sure everybody has like the science, technology, engineering, and math, but really it's about the computer jobs. And when you look at this graphic really quickly, 67% of new jobs in STEM are in computing. Only 11% of STEM bachelors are in computer science. So you see there's a big disparity between people who can fill those jobs and who we need to be in those spaces to have a voice. So this breaks it down a little further for you. And you'll see that 60% of this computer science, right, 60% is the computing, right? We have engineering, physical science, life sciences, all those are a portion, but the total of STEM jobs through 2020, right, you'll see 60% are going to be in computing. And they break that down for us in systems analysts, software development, all those different areas, but computing is that main crux. So we are now entering the phase of the presentation where I call this like my favorite pivot slide ever. So when I was first going out for leadership to talk about counselors for computing to be trained, this was the slide that they showed. And before I had been out there, I was kind of wondering what I was doing. Colorado was beautiful. I was glad to go out there and experience it, but I was a little worried about how I could, as a school counselor, be talking about computer science when I wasn't techie. And then they showed this slide, and we updated it just recently with the 2019 information. But I'm going to go through this slide with you very quickly because this is a slide that's important for you to talk about long-term investment for your students. So on the right hand of the slide, it says social sciences, and you'll see that it has associate's degrees, bachelor's degrees, master's, PhD, annual jobs. So social science, how many of us have students that come in and tell us they're going to be English teachers, or they want to work in psychology, they want to be social workers, right? You'll see how many jobs are available and how many graduates. So I think we've all been through education enough to know that, Sally Mae comes knocking 6 months after graduation to pay back some loans. And you'll see that we want students to be able to get jobs in the spaces that they've programmed for. So social science, you'll see that there's lots of graduates, but very little jobs. When you go to the other side, like engineering, you'll see a lot of graduates again, and a lot of jobs. So like it's almost works for them. If you take a look at computer and information sciences, the jobs are kind of like going through the roof right here, right? And you'll see how many people are actually leaving with a bachelor's degree, and then with a master's degree, and then with a PhD, and you'll see how much job opportunity is there for them. And combining their computer science information with something else like psychology and computer science is really the way to go. But computer and information sciences, a lot of jobs, very little graduates, so that we're able to bridge some of those gaps in equity. And so here we kind of broke it down a little bit further with men and women, so that you could see this a little bit. You see that men in that space far, outpace the women. Just informational there. And then the next one, right, again by gender. All right, and let's just go out. Right, and then the computer information systems degrees, information sciences, 1.5 million degrees at all levels, 4 million job openings. If that doesn't tell you all you need to know. And then I just wanted to drop this in here. When you get a minute, we're not going to watch it, but just for information, if you want to investigate a little bit more, this is a great piece on when women stopped coding. So we thought that if you wanted to go back into this slide presentation and take a look at it, feel free to jump into this podcast.
Absolutely. And I think it's so important that we talk about that disparity between the men and the women who are going for these jobs. So we have this huge market, and we have not enough candidates to fill positions. And alternatively, when we looked at the idea of like something like the social sciences, right? We have the small amount of jobs, and we have all of these people who are vying for those jobs, creating this more intense competition in the workplace. So I know that in New Jersey, when we post for a job, for a teaching job, one position, we get over 50, 60, 70 applicants. It's really difficult to get there. And we have to ask ourselves, why are more women, when we have the availability of jobs, right? Why are we not getting a more equal outpouring from men and women when it comes to computer science? So that kind of brings us back to, well, what were they exposed to, right? What was going on for them? What was in their world and their education experience? So it brings us back full circle to this idea of why the school counselor. So when you think about what influences a girl's decision to pursue computer science, there's really four main things, and this is something I could probably talk about an hour by itself when we talk about what our children are exposed to. But encouragement is huge when it comes to people feeling like they belong in a space. And again, I am again elementary person at heart, always will be. So when I talk about a lot of this, I am going to bring it down to those lower grade levels, because really that's where the foundation for their educational experience is created. That's the footing. So are they getting encouragement from the people around them to explore all of these different avenues that may interest them? Are we giving them the opportunities to try their hand at coding, whether they're playing on code.org or they're engaging in an hour of code, or we're doing non-tech coding, right? Things that are not necessarily computer-based. Are we giving them an opportunity to say, oh, I kind of like this. This is fun for me. Another thing that is influential, and as the school counselor, we can definitely affect, is career perception. But I'm an art person. How could my love of art possibly have anything to do with the computer? And it was funny because I remember having a conversation with one of the secretaries that works at my school, and I was telling her about what I do with C4State, and she was like, "Yeah, but I wouldn't want to sacrifice art or those kind of enrichment things for computer science." And I'm like, "But I just don't know why people believe that those two things have to be mutually exclusive." So we can have art and computer science living together. It doesn't always have to be this idea of sitting in front of a computer all day long. Like, look at that idea of polyvore, right? Where you are just creating these beautiful things related to fashion and shopping, and people are using that. So we need students to hear from people who create these interfaces that we use every day, even though they're not necessarily techie feeling, right? But somebody has to create those. Self-perception, this is a big one. Again, going back to what Jennifer was talking about those computational thinking skills. Do I enjoy math and problem solving? Will I be good at it? Can I do this? You know, when we go back to our youngest students, they don't always come to our doorsteps thinking they can't do something, especially when, I mean, there's nothing more encouraging than sitting with a group of 6 and 7 year olds saying, "Oh, do you think I can do this?" And they're all like, "Yeah, you totally can." They have this pure belief that anything is possible. And really, we need to help keep that alive in them. We need them to understand that they can do these things, even if it's difficult, even if they have a hard time with it. We need to help get that grit developed in them and help them work through that. And the last is this idea of academic exposure. And again, the school counselor is key here. What is available to our students? Is there more than just the idea of, the classes that teach you how to use, Google Workspace? I don't know that kids really need that anymore. Can we move them forward? Can we get more groups nearby? Can we do things like that? So this is where the school counselor really comes into play, because we can touch on all of this, and we work with families to sort of beat back those inaccurate perceptions of computer science, right? We work with students to kind of help lift them up. We work with our administration to create academic exposure. And the encouragement piece, well, that's just part and parcel for the job. That's all. I feel like we're cheerleaders all day long.
Yeah.
So when we move over to the next slide, we can see sort of where it stands now for our students, especially for our young ladies. That idea of self-perception and encouragement. Boys, obviously, this is a known fact, they are receiving more encouragement than girls, and that's from parents, teachers, and especially the media. Media is something that we are always going to have to work with, and sometimes we're going to be working against it. But I think that's starting to come. We're starting to see more diversity in media exposure and things like that. But we also need to work with our parents and sort of explain to them when we can, through parent workshops, or even just at like your meetings, at your tables, where a student expresses an interest in something, and parents, you know, they're unsure if that's a safe career choice or that's a good idea. You know, sometimes the idea of what is a safe career choice in their mind is not what's going to be coming down the road. I said to my husband not too long ago, we were talking about our girls and what they want to be. And I said, you know, we have to remember that a lot of the jobs that our children are going to hold, we haven't even heard of them yet. They haven't even been created. The world of tech is changing so much that so much is going to be at their disposal. They're going to have a different amount of choices. So we don't have to just fall back on the old reliables. And teachers, you know, teachers in that classroom, in that space, kids really look to our teachers to get that encouragement. Are we giving them the opportunities to sort of flex these muscles a little bit? So I think it's just so big how much we can do. And when we go to our next slide, I feel like this is the one, you know, that speaks to a lot of people. It could just be something as simple. Remember, we said we don't want to give you more work, right? We're just want to be more intentional with our work. So when you're talking to students, we don't ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up? It goes back to that idea of, I don't know what's going to be out there. Talk to them about the problems they want to solve. What are they seeing? This kind of changes that conversation that students are having around what they can do moving forward. And I love this idea. When students start talking about issues that hit close to home, or, you know, Jen told me a story about one of her friend's daughters. She's diabetic and she has a pump, and she was, you know, maybe just like kind of complaining about, you know, dealing with the pump and things like that. And Jen turned around and said, well, how are you going to change it? So here's a problem with something that you use every day. What are you going to invent to make this better? And I think that idea of empowering them to change something they don't like and what they want to solve is huge. And I love this idea of taking away that what do you want to be and changing it for what do you want to do? What are the problems you're going to solve? So I think, you know, we are well suited as the school counselors to really drive this conversation with our students and with our families and with our administrations and school boards. We are their people in all ways.
So we think about like what your favorite app is. Like, take a moment and think about something that you use every day or that you just can't seem to live without. I know that my GPS is probably part of, you know, my Google Maps or my Apple Maps, like really matters to me to get me from one place to another. Also thinking about some of the social media that we use, or even like shopping at Kohl's or like JCPenney or Macy's, right? They all have apps now that help us get into their stores, or not even into their stores, but just being able to purchase from them. And what I think really those ideas kind of emphasize are the concept that computer science isn't just one-dimensional. You can add layers to it, and adding layers like psychology and web design, right? What makes people click on those links? How does it connect to another area like of study? Right? How can we encourage our students to create apps? Like we say, there's an app for that, right? And so when we look, right, it really affects every field that we're in. I will say that my students aren't really impressed with animation as much because they've kind of grown up with that, but they are impressed by things that solve social problems. Like they think it's great that I can open my garage door from my office, right? That I can just hit this app and open my garage door from my office. So those things that really lend a convenience factor or solve a problem really speak to them. I know I'm anxious for information, for medical information to become easier, especially when you deal with children. So being able to like spit in a cup like they talked about instead of doing a strep test would be amazing, I think, for anybody who has young children. Right. And this kind of brings us into the next steps for us in terms of how do we engage students. And what we have actually from NC WIT is an award every year that we give out. And the award opens on September 1st. And it is to encourage 9th through 12th graders, educators, and college level students to talk about their interests in computing. And every year since I've started with Counselors for Computing, I have had students enter, and every year we've had students win either like a rising star or a state affiliate. But it really helps the students to create a community that allows them to talk about some of the aspects of computing that really interest them. So this is just some good information about the Aspirations in Computing Award, right? 56% of Aspirations in Community members are identified as non-white, speaks to our diversity, right? It's a safe space. It has personal encouragement, and it has a leveling effect. These are just good data for the award. And then here's some more Aspirations in Computing information. 85% said the award increased their confidence in their ability to pursue a tech career. It affected them positively. I can speak to my students and the feelings they had about the award. One of my students actually was able to connect with other students that were going to her college in New Jersey, and they went to a computer club meeting together. They were nervous to go on their own, like as you are sometimes going into new spaces, and they were able to connect and go together. Also in New Jersey, I'm not sure about West Virginia, but I know in New Jersey, we have colleges that offer scholarships for the Aspirations in Computing Award winners. So let me go back to this real quick. Just a quote from one of the community members. And then what I'd like to do is play this clip from Tommy Canada, who is from West Virginia, right? And she graduated from Westside High School in 2018. She gave us a small clip about what she's doing now and aspirations. So let me pull that up and play that for you.
Hi, my name is Tommy Canada. I'm from Oceana, West Virginia. I'm married, currently studying computer science at West Virginia University Institute of Technology, and I'm also part of the esports team. My interest in STEM originated when my older brother Jared showed me a video about biosynthetics and exoskeletons. And ever since then, I've always known that I wanted to help develop. My love for STEM originates around the problem solving and being able to advance technology to help people in all areas of life. I can do STEM, but so can you.
So I really like that video from Tommy and the information that she gives out there. How often, by the way, apparently, again, I loved it so much, I want to play it again. I want to just mention too, how often do we have our students, or even in my own household, who are video game centric, and we are telling them, oh, you know, you need to do this, you need that, when in reality, they are doing some of the work that they may do in the future, right? I also put into the presentation with Sarah a little bit about AMA. And when you get a minute, if you want to go through the presentation and read about AMA, and then also AMA's story, like she gave us a video as well. If you have time and you want to look through that, it's an 8-minute video, and I'm looking at our time and making sure that we get through everything. So AMA is there if you'd like to take a look at what she has to say about aspirations in computing. Another thing that we would like to talk about are our Bitmoji rooms. This is where we put a lot of the takeaways that we'll give you today in terms of what we've done personally. So when you get a minute, you'll be able to kind of click into my Bitmoji room. And I'm going to see if I can click on some of my guys today. Let's see. So Can you guys see that new screen that opened up? It's the first time I'm using a Bitmoji in this. Is that visible or no?
No.
Okay. So I'm going to avoid that. Avoid that idea. So when you get a minute and you want to click on the Bitmoji room, you can see some of the things. So I have this speaker in my Bitmoji room, and that's because when you click on it, you'll see a picture of a group of students with guest speakers from the New Jersey Institute of Technology who talked about women in computing. So we bring guest speakers into our office a lot, and we want to make sure that the representation that we're bringing students is for everybody to see themselves in computing. The computer that we have here on the screen here, we actually had an organization, a community organization come in called PC Age, and they came in and allowed our students and taught our students how to build a computer that they could take home. So for a Title I district like I'm in, that was pretty big. So they came in, they brought all the parts, they let the kids create the computer, and then they were able to bring that computer home. Some of the other things up here, the AP Diversity Award, the Female Diversity Award we talked about earlier in the programming, the VR goggles here that we use. Also, and information about, we did a career fair that was all female. So every job that we had represented at the career fair was manned. The tables were manned by females, and we had only the 11th grade female students or students who identified as female at the session, and it really allowed the girls and the women to talk in a way that was really purposeful and empowering for them. So those are some of the things that we've done in our Bitmoji room. All right, Sarah, I'll let you go to your Bitmoji room.
So with mine, when you have time, and actually, if you'd like, I can drop some links in the chat if you wanted to go and look around a little bit. So my Bitmoji activities that are kind of put in here are a little bit different than Jennifer's. But I have someone sitting on the couch with me that represents an author visit that I had scheduled for my students where an author came in. And we talk about, the younger grades and maybe sometimes doing things that aren't necessarily tech driven, but they are surrounding the idea of coding and tech. So that was Angela. She was going to come in and speak to my students about her book, The Coding Papers. And that was set to be for my 3rd and 4th grade. I then have someone sitting in her little pink chair, her little throne. That's my computer science teacher. I work with her constantly. And you'll see when I'm going to drop a link to my school counseling site, I have her site also linked on mine, so the kids can see that we are together all the time. So this is my school counseling site in the chat. Feel free to go take a look around. It's for parents and it's for students. The quality content is my YouTube channel that I use to reach some of our students, and I use code.org. This past year, we wanted to do an hour of code, but the COVID situation had different plans for us. So I just wanted to give you some of the things that we do that are not necessarily computer-based, but are still computer science-based.
So we know that you are all going to be receiving a Counselors for Computing kit in the mail when you fill out the Google form at the end. And some of the things you're going to find in there may be the VR set. And we really love using the VR set. I use them actually often. I've accumulated at least 20 of the VRs. So students actually come down and ask to borrow them so they can use them for presentations. I use them for college visits. I use them for anxiety, like relaxation, anything that I can use them for. We try to be inventive, and it's been very successful. One of the ways, if you download UVisit app, you can actually do college tours. These are some of the other materials that you might see. I don't know, Sarah, is there one that you want to talk about, or?
So in the materials that you're going to be getting, the resources, you're going to see a lot of resources, right? It's always good to look around, but we love the idea of these magazines that constantly, sometimes just leaving something in your office for a student to access is just so great. Like they're sitting there for a second, they're waiting, they're looking through something, and maybe something strikes their interest. Also, the 10 ways to engage, girls or families. can really be amazing. These are just little things that you can do. Again, what we're talking about is just being more intentional with what we do. And these are things that will bring it home for you. You can say like, oh, like maybe that guest speaker I'm gonna have, maybe if I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna hit up the technology guys, and I'm gonna see if there's one in my area that can come and speak to our kids. Just little things like that that may help you become more intentional with your activities.
And these 10 ways really provide just openings for you to be able to, like Sarah said, be intentional with your thinking. One of the ones that I like with the 10 ways is when we have to talk with families, especially with cultural, like sometimes there might be a cultural issue where a family feels strongly about a profession and we have to kind of talk through it. How to engage that conversation is always important. Let me see what's my next. There. Oh, I went crazy. Look, I went all kinds of crazy. But in the next slide here, again, a bit
for me, technology means you can dream, you can imagine concepts with the confidence that.
I don't know how to make her stop. So
they all kind of play.
Right, they play, and it's very interesting. But again, another room that you can just kind of click on.
You can bring them to life.
And now,
knowing how to code makes me feel independent, creative, and empowered.
Me too.
For me, technology means solving real-world problems.
Do you see which
it's
one
one
is
of the
playing?
greatest feelings in the world to me, knowing that I'm making
I can't tell which one is playing.
Computer science is positively challenging, creative, fun, and.
All right, let's hope we can. I don't know if I picked the right one. It's a very fun one though. Okay. Let me go back into the present. Oh, it's Technolochicas. I see it. It popped up on its own. I do like Technolochicas. But in that next slide, you'll see like here's another really great way for you to be involved and get a $50 Amazon gift card. That's amazing. So, I mean, I could probably spend that in a minute on Amazon. But on July 21st, there's 3 times there's going to be the presentation of a 1-hour webinar. And if you attend and fill out the information, you're going to get a $50 Amazon gift card. And there's the Bitmoji, the Bitly, if you want to go ahead and jump into that C4C Future Careers and Advising Future Ready Careers. It's actually a monthly webinar series. It's been really successful. So if you're interested in that, please jump into this Bitly and register and get that $50 gift card. Another thing that we will give you access to is our action plan bulletin board that has a series of slides in it that will show you how to become a change maker and an advocate, engaging all stakeholders in the equity and access conversation involved with computer science. It actually will lay out a plan for you so that you're able to bring this information to people that you feel like could make some changes, could help you make those changes. And here is our post-event survey, right? If you use the QR code or the Bitly, whatever works for you, they're there. But we would love to hear your feedback, and we are open to questions. I know that we're kind of like at that time limit, but obviously we had a lot to say.
Some things in the links in the chat, some links in there. So that cork board really quick, that action plan, that's a forced copy. If you click on that, it's going to ask you to make a copy and throw it right in your drive. You'll have it forever and ever and ever. And also I linked the Technolochicas because I love bringing that into the room. And just one of the 10 ways posters. I just dropped those links into the chat. I'm not sure if this chat goes away. It's kind of new with the platform. So if you want to just like click them and open them up and then, you know, get out of here just so you have it. But we are at 10.
I'm going to put, here is it's my Twitter. And then this is our Instagram for the high school. If you want to check out our Instagram, we also have a Facebook page. And then here's my email if anybody has some questions. Because I know that we're running out of time. So I feel like I'm like against the clock. But so if anybody has questions, we're hanging for a bit.
Thank you so much, Jennifer and Sarah. Those of you in the session, feel free to hang out and speak to our presenters. Such valuable information and great resources. It's certainly an area that I think as school counselors, we need to develop our comfort level and learn as much as we can so we can share the growing field. As a parent, my daughter, who never had an interest in computers or STEM, in school, happened to learn about the field of computer science as an incoming freshman, and just was really encouraged. So it's never too late to encourage students. So she's now studying a STEM field and is very excited about her future. So I'm excited for her. So, I just appreciate all the resources you've shared and encourage the counselors in this session to explore all these great resources. So we do have a break right now. Our next session will start at 11:20, and you can join that session by clicking in sessions to see what is available at 11:20. But if you want to stick around and talk to our presenters, feel free to do so.
And if you don't, that's okay too. We won't be upset.
No, it's okay. We get it.
Sarah
Some
and
of us may need bathroom breaks.
Sarah and Jen, thank you so much. That was absolutely amazing. I really appreciate that.
Oh, thank you. I'm so happy it worked out so well. We got right to the time.
You did a good job.
I know. I was like, oh my gosh, we're so close to the time.
It's like a game show, It's like we're running out of time. But
Are you the only school counselors in the counselor for computers, or are there others?
No, there's an army.
Okay.
We've just been blessed to have them both times, and I love it.
Yes. Well, your information that you presented this past school year was greatly appreciated by our counselors. They just ate it up. So we appreciate your time.
Yeah,
and I think
very nice.
I think it's important that we give them what they need, right, to kind of explore this area and realize how pivotal it is for them, So
I think the other thing is I'm just happy that I am a practicing school counselor, able to give other practicing school counselors things, because so often we get talked at by other PDs that don't impact us. And so when I have the ability, even when I was at ASCA this past week virtually, it was just really great to be able to talk to practicing school counselors, who are doing the work. It's hard. It's not, this job has gotten more complex every year.
That's right. And after your session, we had so many requests, training on how to build their own virtual offices. They were so impressed with your virtual offices that Erica provided a great training to follow up. So, yes.
Erica.
It was so much fun.
Well done. Everyone loves it.
When Stephanie said, "Can you do that?" I was like, "I guess I can do that. I don't know how to do that, but I will figure out how to do that." And we did it actually like using PowerPoint, because we're an Office 365 state.
Okay.
And it worked really well.
Yeah.
Like it was really, really cool. So it's actually interesting. I've actually used just the like sharing, how you share a slide, like the settings for that, for a couple things, just to share information in different presentations. That was really helpful. I had a lot of fun. I'll do it anytime, Stephanie, because that was like super fun.
Well, we might ask for that again. Yeah, that was great.
No problem. It was fun.
It's just a nice and accessible way, and it's like not it's not overwhelming. Like, it just seems calming when anybody kind of looks at it, and I think that's the best part, right? It allows you to enter a space without feeling overwhelmed.
Right.
With the Bitmoji room.
And I just think the kids relate so well to it. They all have their own little Bitmojis. They think they're funny. Like, I say it all the time. I could have an entire conversation just with Bitmojis, right? Like, where you're going back and forth. And I think the kids, like,
oh, Sarah, you want to do that? That was a great idea. I think I'm going to make a bulletin board that just has like Bitmoji, like, and you have to guess what that is.
Yes, you can do all things.
I'm doing that right now. I'm going to write that down. I'm going to text Brie.
Write that down and give me.
Oh my God, that's what we're doing.
I'm going to hop over. I have to moderate the next session, but thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stephanie.
All right, bye, Stephanie. Nice to meet you.
Bye, good to meet you.
Again, thank you all.
No, it's just us.
It's just us. Thank you so much. I am so sorry this was so crazy.
No, it was fine. It was totally
I
cool.
think it's still us. I mean, maybe there's still 10 people in here with us. I don't know.
Well,
But,
hey, maybe they
I don't
want
know how to tell.
I kind of liked this Hopin platform. I wasn't sure that, I wasn't sure how the Hopin platform would work or anything.
Right. I like it better than I thought I was going to like it.
Yeah, it just took a second.
What I didn't like was I think I'm okay when I'm in it, but I think when we need to control the presentation part. So like having too many, I think in the beginning, the first presentation that we were looking at, I think we were overselling. We had like a lot packed into it. And I think once we recognized what the platform was, paring it down is what saved the experience. Because I think having 4 and 5 other people have to come in was the hiccup.
Yeah. I think the way it is, and we still got to hear from different different voices. Like we got to hear Tommy, was that her name? And then and I feel like that was really great just to have that quick video of what she was doing, kind of made it more relatable, and and I think they have the Bitly that they can they can hop back in here and take a peek around at all the resources and stuff. So I think it was I think we were trying to do too much.
Yeah. Sometimes we have so much to tell, and we just.
Yes, we get so excited about all of our information because we're a bunch of dorks.
You muted you.
Sorry, I muted myself. We're moving today. So I literally got here at 7:40 this morning and we moved offices. I moved from my office to my new cubicle space 3 floors up.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I was a total sweaty mess earlier, which is why my hair is all nuts. But we literally we've been waiting to move for 2 weeks. And then yesterday it was like, okay, tomorrow we move. I'm like, okay, let's go. So I'm now we're learning. We're in cubicles, so we're learning how to moderate sound and space. There's people moving all around me, but
Yeah. I hope the rest of the sessions go well, and I hope that we'll see you soon. I don't know, when are we ever going to see each other again?
We'll have to figure it out.
We just have to keep coming and giving this presentation.
Right. Next time we're coming to West Virginia, though. Next time. So.
Well, I have a lot of high hopes for. We have some new STEAM initiatives that are starting, and I'm forcing the STEAM to include CS, and I'm really hoping that perhaps we'll really be able to do some way more intense PD and things like that, because we'll be working with some higher ed universities and things like that. So I have a lot of hope for that, and you will have to come. You two will have to come because I like you a lot.
Yes.
Well, we would like to visit.
We would like to visit so much. That would be so much fun.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Well, you all take care. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us again.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Take care.
Bye.